SummerSlam is behind us. The dust has settled, but there is still plenty for us to discuss. The World Heavyweight Championship tournament kicked off on Raw, and this Friday we've somehow got 3 title matches lined up for SmackDown. But before we dive into all of that, Daniel's back with us this week. Welcome back, mate. I thought we'd start by just sort of giving you the floor, because obviously SummerSlam was enormous, as evidenced by our sort of bumper edition podcast. So I thought I'd give you the floor to see if you've got any lingering thoughts from SummerSlam.
It was a good show overall. It was fine. There wasn't a standout match for me, strangely. I really liked the Cody and Punk match. I liked the Liv and Io match. The Seth and Roman match was fine. I have some issues with it, which is general issues related to WWE lately. But yeah, it was fine. It was a good event. I was really happy to see the return of Kevin Owens. I think I sent you guys a message. I was in a hotel room at the time watching that match, and because I was on holiday, I didn't hear any of the rumours that he was coming. I'm so glad I didn't. So I'm sitting there in the hotel, just plodding along, watching it, going, "Oh, a strange match to open up," and then I just went, "Yeah." My son's right in front of me. He's gone, "Ugh," and my wife's getting ready. She's turned around. I'm like, and he's like, "Who's this?" I'm like, "It's Kevin Owens, mate. Wicked." And then obviously Chelsea Green. I was just so happy to see Chelsea win as well. So yeah, I think the takeaways from SummerSlam were really good. I think the events coming off of the back of it, I'm sure we'll get into SmackDown a little bit more, but I think the 2 events coming off the back of it and the sort of reset that they did on Raw last week and ultimately on SmackDown were really positive. So yeah, I'm looking forward to things.
Awesome. Yeah, it seemed to me, especially having had a week now to sort of process it and see where the pieces are falling into place, seems more like a post-WrestleMania kind of landscape where you see these new storylines develop, and we've got Bron and Ober sort of sparking into life over on Raw, which I'm sure we'll touch on. But yeah, a really, really good weekend, and things are very different to how they looked the last time you were on the show. Shall we start with KO? Or should we start with Chelsea? I feel like it's one of...
I'd love to start with KO.
Let's go for it then. Okay. Since obviously we've been now recording podcasts together since January? So we haven't, the 3 of us, actually really spoken about Kevin Owens at all. I'm a huge Kevin Owens fan. I think he's a future Hall of Famer. And I think that sort of phrase gets bandied around a little much for my liking nowadays. But for me, he's absolutely one of the best in the current landscape, and 17 months out and he's back straight into a feud with CM Punk. Now, when we reviewed SummerSlam, Sanjay and I last week, we were kind of already licking our chops at the prospect of Punk and Owens on the mic together, and they are not wasting any time at all. So on SmackDown, we opened the show with Punk and KO trying, as I alluded to in the intro, to be as professional as they could, and both of them insisting, "No, I'm a professional," whilst in reality it's all fraying and there's a lot of bad blood there. Sanjay, I'll come to you. What did you make of the promo battle they had on SmackDown?
We knew this was going to be like probably one of the most entertaining feuds, and we're just so glad to have Kevin Owens back. He's so great on the mic, even in the ring. It's so good to see him, and who better than CM Punk to be, battling against. So, as you said, keeping it professional was so good to see, because it's like, nah, you want to fight. You guys really want to tear each other apart. Keeping it professional, not really, but I can't wait for more segments. Feed me more. It's going to be great.
Obviously, the night opened up with Cody, and Cody had a really good Friday night. He started the night really hot, really, bothered by Orton. And then you've got sort of Punk coming out to address him. I kind of expected it to sort of end there almost, because there's your promo for the one feud that you've got, and then a little bit of Punk and Cody sort of on the tail end of it. But then it's, I'm expecting to go to commercial, and then Kevin Owens' music hits, which is a great piece of music, by the way. I think it's...
Love it, yeah.
I think it might creep up into my top 5 at some point. But yeah, then I just went, I started rubbing my hands there and going, ooh, and it just did not disappoint. I think both men were calm. They were patient. The crowd weren't interrupting as well. They were hanging on every single word that they were saying. I loved the fact that Punk took more of a heelish side, expecting the crowd to be more pro Owens. Yeah, if this is just a taste of what's to come, bring it on. But I think their match isn't that far away, so I'm hoping it extends a bit longer and we do get a bit more sort of sizzle out of this steak, so to speak.
For sure, yeah, because Owens, I think, in a backstage segment, in passing, I think with Nick Aldis mentioned something about Toronto, which is an awesome setting for a first. If that's Owens' first match, obviously apart from the contenders match, if that's his first match back and it's for the title against Punk in Toronto, that could be white hot as far as the crowd goes. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot. I like your sizzle and steak analogy there, Daniel, because there's a lot here and they've only just scratched the surface. I had sort of a quite polarizing experience of it watching SmackDown. So like you, Daniel, when that music hit at SummerSlam, I lost my mind and my wife immediately was like, what's going on? Who is this? Because she's only been watching for just over a year. So she hasn't seen Kevin Owens wrestle. And I was like, my God, he's amazing. Like, he doesn't look like Obafemi or Roman Reigns, but he can wrestle like hardly anyone I've ever seen. He's just mind blowing and so good on the mic. So I think I set the bar quite high as far as my wife's expectations go. And I loved the promo battle, like you two have mentioned. Loved the promo battle on SmackDown. And now Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett kind of alluded to some history on commentary, right? I think they even said, like, we've been told we're not allowed to talk about it or something like that. Which, of course, I presume the three of us all understand the history that's there, or certainly some of it, right? But my wife doesn't have that insight. So for her, we finished the promo segment and I was kind of like, huh? And she kind of shrugged in a like, well, what? I don't understand. Why? She was almost saying, why is Kevin Owens saying that Punk's a fraud? Because the only Punk she's ever seen has been nice guy, happy to be here, Phil. And now Kevin Owens has come back and said that he's a fraud and there's all this history, but they're not talking about the history, but they're talking about the fact that there is a lot of history. Does that make sense? So I loved it, but I do wonder whether they could have maybe, without spoon feeding you all of the history, perhaps they could have given a little bit more for those like my other half who wasn't aware that there was all of this history. But
because I think,
go ahead.
Sorry, just to interrupt, but
no.
I think a lot of it is obviously backstage dynamics between the two of them, and then how much of it is true, you have to take with a grain of salt. But they did sort of allude to that almost, like, they called me skinny fat. They weren't ready for Kevin Owens. And it's like, we can sort of gauge what they're getting to with that.
Yeah.
Because we sort of know that how Punk was perceived and how Vince perceived certain stars. But yeah, I do see your point that I feel like without spoon feeding us, they probably could just give us that little bit more.
They need to find a minute, because historically, they have like shoved things in our faces that almost insult your intelligence. But this kind of went to the opposite extreme, as I say. But I agree with you, Daniel, that Punk felt like he was leaning heel. I liked it. Like, he's got a way, I think I might have mentioned this to you, Sanjay, last week, that Punk has a way of smiling, and sometimes it's an earnest babyface smile, and sometimes it's a shit-eating grin that you can't wait to see someone shut down. And I am all in on this feud already. Bring on next week and the week after. Well, the other name we kind of mentioned at the beginning there was Chelsea Green, who had an amazing night at SummerSlam. I'll just take an opportunity here to have another victory lap, Daniel, because you missed my victory lap last week that I called that match to the T of how it was going to finish. But the reports,
I did listen to the podcast though, so I did hear you.
But I need to see it. I need to see you hearing it. But the latest reports I've read and heard is that on SmackDown, she has now broken or fractured her orbital bone during the match with Fatal Influence, which could not be worse timing, right? I haven't heard whether this is going to result in Chelsea having to vacate or whether they're going to keep it on her and now have this position where they've crowned a champion because Rhea's gone and we need someone. You've now crowned a champion who's going to be out of action for a little while. Have either of you heard any more than I have in terms of how bad this is?
No, I haven't. But I have heard in the past, I think she's had a similar issue in the past. Because didn't she wear a mask at some point?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was for the nose. She's broken her nose a few times. And on Unreal, I think she's shown that like her nose is very movable.
I could be wrong, but I actually do think that this might be the case where you can wear a mask as well. So she might be lucky. I don't know. I'd have to go and search up the history of orbital bone.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to, and I got into the rabbit hole of like not even looking it up myself, but just reading other people's comments, which is always like there's no real science there, is there? But I did read a couple saying that there's a difference between a nose injury where you can wear a mask and still wrestle and an orbital one where it's much more dangerous to do that sort of thing. But I'm keeping everything crossed that it's not as serious as it might be, because that moment at SummerSlam was incredible. The injury aside, I'll get your guys' thoughts and I'll come to you first, Sanjay. An interesting booking decision to have Chelsea Green be the one that eats the pin against Fatal Influence. I saw quite a lot of backlash to this online, but what did you make of it, Sanjay? Obviously, Fatal Influence wanted the US title shot for JC Jane, and they kind of earned it by giving Tiffy and Chelsea a title match. But what did you make of Chelsea being the one to eat that pin?
I'll say first, I really enjoyed the match and the interaction. For a second, I thought they might actually give them the tag team belts, so Tiffy 2 belts and Chelsea on your all-time high, but it's just Fatal Influence. I think they're looking really solid, really strong. I'm not sure what the idea is, because I think JCJ is going to go probably for the US title, take it off Tiffany, and I think that was probably they planned, but not for Chelsea. And now that Chelsea's taken the sort of pinfall, I think it just goes well with the storyline because it's an injury as well. So probably it could be a sort of just to clear a few weeks to see if she can actually come back and still do something in the shows. Not probably wrestle at the moment, but probably still come do a little, I don't know, probably stand by Tippy for a while in the match, because I think that's going to be going on anyway. So, but I hope it's all well for Chelsea, because literally it's her time. It's the second time actually for her, isn't it, when she gets a big moment and an injury or something comes over. So
yeah, I don't want to start throwing the curse word around like we did for the Vision a few months back. We're not quite there yet, but SmackDown Women's Division is heading towards curse territory, perhaps. Daniel, obviously a big call to have your new champion be beaten relatively cleanly in a match like that to someone who's after the US title. What did you make of all that?
I didn't mind it so much. And I think that's partly because of how they present Chelsea. She's a bit of even the way that she won felt a bit fluky in a way. So she is going to be she's not going to be a dominant champion. And I think it does well for Fatal Influence because it makes them look like, a strong tag unit. That's one thing I really like about AEW is that you could take two of the biggest stars like, I don't know, Hangman and Will Ospreay or Kenny Omega or whatever. But if they come against the Young Bucks, there's a really good chance the Young Bucks are going to win because they have the tag experience. They are the unit and have been for a long period of time. So they tend to sort of have this in the back of their mind when they're booking this sort of thing. Obviously, there's exceptions here and there. When it comes to WWE, these things often get forgotten. Like the War Raiders would lose against Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, even if Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns despise each other and have all these issues. And so, I like it in that sense. I'm not surprised she lost. I think they probably think it's better to have Chelsea lose because she can recover from it rather than Tiffany, who might not be able to.
Yeah, and I think to Sanjay's point about where they're going with this, I do expect JC Jane to take the title off Tiffy. I think next week. I think it's time, and so maybe then they're protecting that pinfall for next week. Totally agree with you that Chelsea wasn't and is never going to be a dominant champion, or certainly not at the moment. It would take a huge character evolution for her to reach a kind of dominant alpha position. And that's not to her strength. Her strength is the wide-eyed. I love it when she hits a move and she almost can't believe that she's done it. She gets ahead of herself. So I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with having her eat the pin. I just wonder, sort of, in terms of JC Jane, really now that character should be saying, well, I'm the number one contender for the women's title because I just beat the champion, right? And I don't get the impression that they're going to do that. I get the impression they're just going to do the US title thing. And then it seems that Nia Jax, who obviously beat Chelsea pretty badly after the match, is going to be her next challenger. So it's kind of, does it make JC Jane look a little short-sighted or something if she's, I pinned the world champion, but it doesn't matter because I'm after the lesser of the belts. I'm not quite sure how you square that circle, but I definitely think we're a week away maybe from Fatal Influence holding quite a lot of, if not all, the gold.
Well, I think that could be quite an interesting thing coming off the back of a Nia feud and coming off the back of JC and Tiffany. You could return to this and just say, hey, I want both belts. Why? I said, well, I beat you to earn this title shot. And, I think that I can. I want to be JC 2 belts or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I could certainly see that. And that would be a good way for them to go, especially if you want to establish this faction who have only just come up and then got lost in the shuffle a little while. They seem to be right back to the forefront of things now.
I really like the girls as well. Lacey and Fallon. Sorry, Lainey and Fallon. Lainey Reid especially is just, she's impressing me more and more every week. I think I've said that before. She's just so much fun to watch. I don't know if she's ever going to get over to the same extent of, say, a Chelsea, but yeah, she's really enjoyable to watch. So, yeah.
She's young enough as well, isn't she? And she's got a lot less experience than the other two, even in that fairly young group. So she's got she's very young to be on the main roster. So she's got a long way that she can progress. Almost like a Javon Evans is very young and is on the main roster. Roxanne Perez is very young and on the main roster. These characters have a long time ahead of them to really find a really high ceiling, which is really interesting. From really interesting to not really interesting, Baron Corbin's still the US champion. He beat Trick Williams again. He's still got the fur on the title. What, Sanjay, what's that about? Baron Corbin, of all people, coming out on a bike like 2000's Taker, is carrying around a Muppet belt. What's he thinking? Character-wise,
when I saw that, when he came out on the bike, I was like, okay, yeah, reminds you of the badass Undertaker. So I thought, and then I saw the belt and I said, no, wait, I was like, that probably Trick is going to win then. He's probably going to take back his lovely looking title. And then it's still just sort of Baron Corbin being heel. I think it's a way for Trick to come out of this and probably chase the Universal title or have something different going on now, because I think he's at that stage where you can't sort of push him. He already has the crowd behind him as well. Face, so you have a lot of heels, which will be good to pair up against. Even if they put him on Raw, I think he's got a lot of good, feuds that he can have with people on Raw.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think as you said, Sanjay, about him sort of ascending towards the main event, which I agree with, by the way. I do think that's where he's going to be going. SmackDown-wise, that's a bad time to be trying to ascend to the main event when you have Cody and Orton, who we'll touch on in just a minute, I'm sure. You've got KO and Punk, you've got Sammy, you've got Gunther, you've got all of these really big hitters who are all firing on all cylinders at the moment, and that doesn't leave a lot of room for a Trick Williams to emerge from that kind of into that kind of landscape. So I think you might have had a really good idea there, though, by suggesting a move to Raw. I could see him in a feud with the Roman Reigns even, which he's maybe not ready for quite yet, but I certainly think that could be the kind of slight reset that I would say Trick maybe needs at this point. But Daniel, what did you make of Trick losing to Baron Corbin 2 weeks on the bounce, and where does he go from here?
I swear I read that Baron Corbin, I think he tweeted or something, that he has to shave this belt. So I was a bit disappointed that he didn't shave it.
Why am I now seeing a belt with like stubble on it? Just a really grotty, grimy Baron Corbin stubble belt.
But yeah, the match was fine. I think it was a touch better than the SummerSlam match. But both of, it's not saying much. Both are a bit dull. I mean, I don't know if I want to see another one, but part of me kind of feels like you need a third and decisive match between the two of them. Maybe, hopefully, it's down the line, or fingers crossed, WWE just forget about it. Going into this week, I think I was really surprised and happy to hear that Hayes got a really good response when he come on screen this past Friday. So I'm hoping that continues this week.
Well, this week, just to interject, this week he's got the title shot, right? And I believe it's in his hometown. So if he's ever going to get a really big groundswell, now's the time for LA. But carry on, sorry.
And Corbin's good as well if you pair him with the right person. Usually he's really good against smaller competitors. I vaguely remember a pretty good match. I want to say with Rey Mysterio. He's definitely had like good matches with like luchador sort of people. So I imagine he'll have a half
base,
yeah. I think there's a few more better Baron Corbin matches than they are Trick William matches. It probably isn't saying much, but yeah, we'll see how it goes from here.
Yeah, indeed, and see how long that fur lasts on the belt. In terms of SmackDown, there's only two other things to touch on, really. We'll touch on Cody and Randy first. Now, the last time we were kind of properly focused talking about Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, none of us were very happy about it. It was in what I would say was the worst built story and match for WrestleMania, and it was the main event of one of the nights. We're in a different place now. We have no Pat McAfee. We seem to be remembering, as you alluded to, I think, Sanjay, last week, there's actual history here you could lean on and tell an actual easy story with. Daniel, I'll come to you first this time. We don't know yet when Cody and Randy are going to have their big match, but they're both talking about bringing out the worst of themselves. How are you feeling about this new Cody and Randy feud? A chance for them to right some wrongs, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they didn't go full into the history, but they're definitely alluding to the fact that there's a lot of history there and there's a lot of time together that they can sort of draw upon. I thought this past week, Randy come off really well. We've said it in the past, the problem with Randy is he's not going to get booed. But if Cody performs as Cody performed on Friday, then he's not going to get booed as a direct result of it being against Randy. So really strong way to start this feud. And I'm really hoping or looking forward to seeing where it goes.
I hope it's just like you said, to right these wrongs, because what we all expected before, hopefully we get that now. I just want to say though, but I really like Cody Rhodes. I think his promo as well has been really good, really strong. And the line that he dropped where he said he doesn't need to be the face. So it's kind of making me feel like, is this the time for Cody Rhodes to turn heel probably? Maybe Randy Orton, they're going to bring that out of him. So I'm quite excited to see what happens with Cody Rhodes. As in for Randy Orton, it's good to see that it's just Randy Orton. There's no Pac-Man or Jelly Roll or something lingering in the corner. We don't really need any of that. Just keep it to these two now.
Just let Orton be Orton, right?
Yeah.
And I'm glad you touched on Cody's promo in particular, because I was really impressed with that. And that line about him not needing to be the face anymore. And I think there's a seed in there for a really great heel run, because it was such an interesting choice, I think, to have him talk about losing the title. And it was almost relief it was almost like finally, I think he said something like, I don't have to be the good guy anymore. And I think that that's really, really intriguing. And I kind of had my money on, if you were going to turn Cody or Punk, that you would turn Punk first. But maybe, who knows, maybe they'll both turn in the next few months. I could see that happening now, like I couldn't a few weeks ago. But yeah, much, much more invested and interested in this than everything they did back in the spring. So
I'll just say you got a good tag team match there as well. You could do Kevin Owens and Randy Orton versus Cody and Punk.
Yeah, I actually think to that point, which is a really good one, I think you could interchange any of them, and that's a really intriguing tag match. I think if you put Cody with Kevin Owens against Punk and Randy, I think you could even make them team together and have Punk and KO chantering at each other on the side, and Orton and Rhodes having to team together as well. Storyline wise, that one's a bit more of a stretch as to why that would ever happen, but I would love to see the four of them sort of interchanging and intermingling these storylines at least at some point. So that's, yeah, a really good point. We had a debut SmackDown as part of the main event segment. Tatum Paxley is now, I believe, been called up to the main roster. She, at least for the moment, has aligned with Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. So presumably we're heading for a 6-woman tag at some point. But yeah, Sanjay, what did you make of the match? We finally had the Charlotte Flair, Jade Cargill singles match, and Alexa Bliss is back. She's still got her arm sort of strapped up, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But we also have Tatum Paxley in our midst. What did you make of it?
So I really did like the match, and I thought it did have that big feel match, and it was the main event, which is always great to see, you know, two of the big stars like Charlotte Flair and Jade looking really strong, really good. Charlotte's just been, you know, how she really is on the main event. She really performs really good on the main event. I've always noticed that if she has a big match, the way she just wrestles is different. I think they're going to save an actual match for later in the future, probably. And then seeing Alexa Bliss finally come back is good. But yeah, the debut. I mean, I haven't really seen her work before, so I'm interested to see what she's like.
Daniel, I think you've got slightly more of an insight into NXT, perhaps, than the two of us. Is that fair to say?
So. I mean, I've sort of like, more historically speaking, I think with NXT these days, it's really hard to sort of stay in tune with it a bit more because it's just not as intriguing at times as it once was outside of Grayson Waller.
I saw some clips. Yeah, that's interesting.
Oh, amazing. If you haven't seen the Grayson Waller promo from last week, go watch it. But yeah, I really like Tatum. She's fun. She's got this sort of gothic, sort of like crazy vibe to her. I think it should translate quite well to the main roster for a short time. But much like a few of those sort of characters, you need to find a way to sort of, I don't want to say sort of level it out might be the right way of sort of trying to calm it down slightly to make it more palatable for a much larger audience. I don't feel like they ever did that for Shotzi as an example. So over time, it just become a bit much. But yeah, I really like Tatum. She had some really good matches in the last year or so because she was women's champion. And I feel like moving her up with Alexa is a really smart call. Yeah, pretty nice.
Yeah, I think that aligning her with Alexa and presumably Charlotte will soften to her eventually and they will become a bit of a trio. That's really, you couldn't ask for much better for a debuting character, because we've seen time and time again recently, and we've moaned about it on the podcast, or I certainly have, where they'll do a new thing with a wrestler and then they drop them for 2 or 3 weeks and all of that momentum dies. If you're in a little alliance with Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair, the one thing you are going to get is TV time, because I think those are really consistently on TV every single week. And so this could be a really good springboard. Excuse me. Speaking of springboard, I loved the dive. It was the only, obviously, physicality we saw her do off that top post. But the shape she made in the air showed someone who had zero miedo, to quote Penta, like absolutely no fear, total trust that they are going to catch me. And so she just gave it all. It reminded me of an EO kind of where they'll make a complete shape in the air. Whereas I think sometimes, and this is true of the men and the women, they can be guilty of being a little bit safer on some of the dives that maybe leads to them not looking quite so spectacular. I thought this was a great introduction to a new character. As great as I felt about the Tatum Paxley, I did not enjoy the end of Charlotte and Jade. I thought that was the weakest I've seen Jade look for a while.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I agree. Like Jade, I think has had a pretty good year in terms of matches. I think Rhea's done a lot there. This was probably her roughest match of the year. It's like,
I think whenever you watch Jade, or certainly whenever I watch Jade, there's always a kind of feeling of watching it and not necessarily waiting with bated breath, but always being ready for something to go off the rails.
yeah.
And I feel like the match was going okay, but then it was specifically the finish. And it was 3 moves in a row, the 3 moves that get Charlotte over the top, get her the win over Jade, and it was botch. And I don't know how much of that was just Jade or whether Charlotte takes some of the blame there as well. I never like to go too hard on those kind of moments, but it's when it's that close in succession in that big a spot, it was just a shame. And hopefully they can iron out some of those glitches before they tangle again in a one-on-one setting.
I will say one positive thing, and I do agree with Sanjay in that regard. Like they gave it the gravitas that it probably deserved. And the fact that it was the main event, I think it was rightly so. You know, that should have been, and we were discussing it as a potential SummerSlam match. So, you know, it was given the sort of platform that it should have been given.
Absolutely.
I just don't think it hit as well as it should have. And maybe that's down to them just not having the chemistry with one another, or maybe having an off night.
But you're absolutely right, both of you, that this deserved the main event spot. The match graphic alone is a main event of any card, I would say. I wish we weren't still in this position with women's wrestling, but it is still noteworthy every time the women main event a show. And it's always positive, and I think it always needs to be celebrated that they're putting the women on that sort of platform to really show what they can do. Because this was a show with the return of Kevin Owens and CM Punk. It was a show with the return of Randy Orton and a feud with Cody. There are times where those two things would be 20 times more likely than any women's match to main event the show. So I think, Sanjay, you absolutely hit the nail on the head there. Great to see this match main event, and hopefully there's more spotlights like that coming up for them in the future. So Raw, I guess let's talk about someone who I think is one of my favorites at the moment, and that's Solo Sikoa, who had quite the eventful Monday night. I love this version of Solo Sikoa. I think he loves it too. I'm worried about where it's going based on the result in the main event, but I'm not without hope that it can still be really, really good. Sanjay, Solo started the show with Jay, main evented the show with Jay as well. Jay has beaten him now, and the quote I've got down here is that next week Jey Uso hand delivers Solo Sikoa to Roman Reigns. Of the interactions between them, of the match, is Solo in the bloodline now? Just fill your boots.
So like I said in the other podcast, Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam really made me laugh. The way he's just, I think it's just this character that he's bringing now is working so much better for him than how he was as being the enforcer and being a bit quiet and like sort of like how they kind of made Jacob in the beginning when he first came. He was really like a serious character. I think Solo being what he is like now, that suits him a lot more, and the crowd is so much happier for him. And he's just one of my favorite right now for showing like sort of a comic timing as well. It's just perfect. You know, who better to team up with than, the Usos, because You can see the brother sort of hood is there, and Jay is also kind of proud of him as well because he can't keep a straight face. Jay, every time he smiles, you know he's breaking character, so, and he does it a lot with Solo, so it does show that he's also enjoying it as well. So it's great to see Solo like that. I'm actually quite excited to see what happens with this because I did say if they're going to do this Bloodline stuff again and bring the OG Bloodline back together, then they need to have something new, a new storyline or something. So I'm not sure what they will do, but I think Solo with this character can do a lot more than he did in the OG Bloodline, where he was kind of like just before Sami Zayn was kind of the last member. So I think he's got a lot that he can do, but we'll see.
Yeah, an awesome evolution of his character into this sort of new comedy phase. And I don't know that we've spoken much about Solo Sikoa because it really was sort of SummerSlam weekend that he really kind of came out of his shell a bit more, I guess, into this new version. What are you making of slightly funnier Solo Dolo, as we should call him?
I mean, he's always had them traits. I think he has, like I said the last time I was on, that for the last year or so, if you actually pay attention to him, he's really amusing. Like he's really
always had
fun
that
to watch.
face.
Yeah. But yeah, like I'm really enjoying what he's doing, and now he's being given the sort of freedom to be Solo, for lack of a better term. The only issue I have is I think the presentation needs tweaking a little bit. The entrance is still very heel-like. The way he wrestles is very heel-like. It's just, there's a bit of a disconnect there. But I think he will become, for lack of a better term, like an IWC favourite, for lack of. How he fits into the Bloodline, I don't know. Because the Bloodline itself is still as confused as it was a month ago. Like, in this storyline, Solo should be the face, but then Jay's getting the big yeet every time he comes out. Roman, in theory, should be the heel in this, but he's not going to be a heel. And then after what I saw with Jacob last night, I'm kind of a bit concerned as well that we find ourselves in a similar position with Solo, in that Jacob had a backstage segment with LA Knight, and LA Knight's like teasing him like, oh, you can't do anything because you haven't got the green light. And Jacob goes into his sort of catchphrases, which gets the crowd going, oh, I'm all gas, no brakes, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting there and I'm just going, 2 months ago, I would have smiled at this. Now I'm sitting there going, there's no bite to anything you're saying. You've been neutered by the Bloodline and by Roman Reigns, just by him saying, don't touch LA Knight. So this whole, I'm all gas, you no brakes, you know what I mean? It's like, well, you're not, because you can't do anything. So the concern is with Solo getting this momentum and getting this positive momentum, him joining the Bloodline where the heel and face dynamic is all over the place, and the sort of, again, sorry for lack of a better term, the bite that each star has. I hope it doesn't derail him slightly when they're finding their feet with this character, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, indeed. And to your point about Jacob specifically, when he did the catchphrases, all gas, no brakes with it, my wife just looked at me and went, well, he does have brakes, doesn't he? Because he's not hitting him. So you're quite literally talking rubbish. And he's gone back. I was going to say he's gone nowhere, but that's not true. You're right. He's gone totally backwards. We talked recently about Bron Breakker being at a low ebb, although that's not the case now, thankfully. He's coming right back up into it. But Jacob is nowhere. He's gone right to the back. I don't see. We were talking about him as a main eventer of WrestleMania, which he still has in perhaps in his future career, but he's miles off it now.
The best thing you could have done in that position was had Jacob just maul him and then said, I'll follow his orders, but if you disrespect me, I will bite back. I will punch back.
Yeah.
Because I ain't no punk-ass bitch like Jay.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
really that simple. And then Roman comes back and thinks, what are you doing? I told you not to touch him. It was like, he disrespected me.
Yeah.
And then it makes it appear that Jacob is this wild dog that even Roman can't control fully. Which suddenly makes you go, oh, that's interesting.
Exactly. That's where the intrigue lay, isn't it? And when Jacob first lost that title match with Roman, that's, I think, what the three of us talked about wanting to see, was that he was going to go into the bloodline but be this really reluctant, really sort of dog straining at the leash, trying to get out of this kennel that they've put him in. But neutered is the perfect word for him. And as far as Solo goes, the opening set, I love that they gave him the ball of opening Monday Night Raw. I think that's quite something for any character to actually open the whole broadcast. I thought was great. Having him in the crowd was wonderful. I totally agree, Daniel, that then what the hell is Jey Uso doing his yeet entrance through the crowd in the main event? Because I thought Jey, to his credit, did really well in the opening segment, being the heel of that piece. And the crowd tried to yeet, and he went, no, I'm talking. And the Solo ducking the warning shot was incredible. And him turning around, going, is everyone okay? Just outstanding stuff.
The one thing I'm a bit disappointed in, I was really hoping that Solo would come out through the crowd yeeting to his own music.
Yeah.
I just thought that would have been funny.
Yeah. It would have been, and perhaps they could have done it if they hadn't had Jey come through the crowd doing his babyface entrance in that main event. To your point, Daniel, about the way he wrestles, I thought this was one of the more interesting Solo matches that I've seen, because there was a lot more Rikishi in there than I've seen previously. And he stopped at one point, and it was before he did a hip attack. But part of me thought, are they going to give him the stink face as a move? Is he going to because I genuinely paused and he looked and I thought, is he going to back up and do a stink face? I think I'm glad that they didn't give him that, to be fair. But I did see slightly more Rikishi-esque babyface energy to the way he wrestled a little bit. But there's still, as you've alluded to, quite a ways to go to kind of revitalize that presentation of him. My biggest hope, my biggest silver lining here is that it didn't say if Jey wins, Solo is in the bloodline. All we're going to see next week is this hand delivery of Solo to Roman. And I'm hoping that at the end of it, I don't know, does Roman reject Solo and say, what are you doing tit-arsing around and smiling at everyone? Like, I don't want you in this bloodline. You're not the real Solo Sikoa anymore, or something. I don't know. Or does Solo, I think like you just mentioned, Sanjay, the idea of Solo in the bloodline in a different version of himself could be really entertaining. If, for example, everyone's there really seriously putting their fingers up and Solo's in the back going, like, just making a mockery of it all. I don't know, but I don't know whether they would go for that. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
I think you still got LA Knight in the mix. They had a segment backstage as well where he kind of said, it's not just Roman, it's the whole bloodline. So maybe LA Knight comes and saves Solo or does something there.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, but then I think that speaks to a bit more of the strangeness of the booking of this match. Because if you're LA Knight, you're going to presumably go on to fight Roman Reigns at some point. You want the bloodline, well, you don't want the bloodline to be strengthened by Solo. So I didn't quite get that whole, we were one and done, see you later kind of thing. I thought that was a bit odd. Like I say, maybe he'll save him next week. I don't know, but
maybe it's
quite
as simple as Solo doesn't raise his one, and then Roman's just like, all right, boys, get him, and then it's kind of, I don't know, but that feels incredibly heelish, and you're running the risk of it being just more of this. So, one issue I've got with Roman Reigns matches these days is this tendency to focus too much on the talking within the matches. It's like, okay, we get it. Maybe you should have told this story prior. And Jey Uso
mic time.
Jey Uso and Solo were even guilty of it last night. Like, it's filtering down to the other bloodline members. But yeah, I can just imagine it being that long-winded like that. Yeah, beat his ass, and we told you not to join the family, and you're just like, okay, get on with it. You couldn't have done this in a promo. No, you're going to do it as make this beat down even more long-winded. But yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah, I kind of wish they hadn't thrown away because there was a really cool moment the other week where Solo acknowledged the bloodline and then went like this and spiked. I think one of the Usos it was. I think at this stage, imagine the pop if he did that to Roman, if he did that, stood next to Roman Reigns, went into the spike. But who knows? One other storyline I definitely want us to talk about is Bron Breakker and Obafemi. They started towards this last week with stare down on the stage. And this week, we actually got a face-to-face in-ring segment. They still haven't said a word to each other really yet. But this, for me, is heading in a really, really interesting direction. Daniel, you first this time. Are you excited about Bron and Oba?
Yeah. I think it should be.
A fairly easy question, right? Wasn't it?
I mean, it's a great place to go straight after Brock as well. Yeah, man. I mean, you've started it off really, really strong. I think as well, I could see this being a really nice way to establish the fact that Bron might be a little bit of a kryptonite to Oba. And I like that idea. If you can establish that, maybe not entirely dominant, but, you know, he does have his number here and there. I quite like that idea. Because if Oba just destroys him 2 or 3 times on the bounce, then that might be a bit bad. But, you know, it feels like the sort of feud that in 10 years' time, you're going to be saying, this was the, you know, the Randy and Cena of this era, or this was the Roman and Seth of this era. Like, you know, they've met countless times and they're in various matches across the years. So I feel like this is going to be something that really goes on and on. And if they start it well, which I'm hoping they do, yeah, it should be very fruitful.
I like that word. Fruitful's a great way to describe it. Sanjay, I know when you and I touched on it in our SummerSlam review last week, I think you were a little higher on it than I was, and I'll get to my thoughts in just a moment. But how's it going for you with Bron's sort of evolution into this week as he's sort of seeking out Oba?
Glad they put Bron in this spot, because we were all having concerns of him being in the vision, just kind of in the backstage. He's just looking sad. Yeah, he's just looking miserable. There's pictures being online as well saying, you know, the quote bubble saying he does not want to be there. I just think they need to find a way to kind of get that tag team off him. You could probably still be part of the vision, but don't be a tag team partner with Austin Theory. You got something really big here in the making. So that's a really huge match. And Oba still hasn't, you know, gone for his declaration about who's he going to go for. Who's going to fight Roman Reigns, and when that's going to happen. And if there's a title change there, then, you know, Bron's your guy. You definitely need him to be fighting Obafemi for the belt, because I don't really see that many challenges for Oba at the moment, but Bron is such a strong number, and it'll be so good for him because he's missed his chance with the injuries and with the whole vision curse. So to bring him back to where he actually belongs, because he has everything that you need for a big star, for a top guy, for the, you know, world title. So I hope this is to build both characters really stronger, making them kind of in the main event scene as well a bit. So I hope they're working towards that, but a really good feud now will probably be the best shout for both of them in their career.
It's absolutely, for Bron especially, it's exactly what he needs, isn't it? And I know that when we spoke last week, I mentioned that the one negative I could think of was just a concern, I guess, that Bron's stock has fallen so far over the last 6 or so months, where he really was the future, and now he really is bumming around with Austin Theory in a tag team. But I'll hold my hands up and say I was wrong, because I really like where this went on Raw this week. I thought Bron Breakker's performance was really great, like really, really great. And I don't know whose choice it was for him to perform in the way that he did. But when they did the backstage promo with, I think Byron Saxton was interviewing them, and then they walk off and Bron's just stood there, and Byron's like, "You all right? You want to talk about it?" And before Bron said anything, I thought this is going to go one of two ways, knowing WWE as I have for years and years and years. Either he's going to snap and like beat up Byron Saxton and scream down the camera that Oba's next, or he's going to say absolutely nothing and he's just going to sort of, in his catatonic state, walk out of frame. And I loved what they did instead. I loved the fact that he just really quietly said, what do you make of that Obafemi? And I kind of like leaned right forward in my seat of, that's such a good decision to have made as an actor or as a writer or whoever it was. And he was like that all night. He was talking to Paul Heyman with that kind of soft tone. And I just think it's perfect. And it almost, and again, this is me being totally wrong last week, it almost works because of how far Bron Breakker has fallen, that he can have this existential crisis almost of everyone's talking, what's the phrase they keep using, the future of WWE? That was the question, wasn't it? Is Obafemi the future of WWE? And to your point, Daniel, there needs to be two, right? There's Rock and Austin, and there's Cena and Orton, and there's Seth and Roman, and there's Trish and Lita. There's always two, because that's what wrestling is. And this, we really could be entering a time where it's Oba and it's Bron Breakker. And yeah, I'm now fully on board with where this feud can go. The one thing I did hope we would see maybe was as he was setting up for the spear on the Tozawa, and you heard the first ooh of Oba's music. Part of me wanted that to be it, to just have an ooh and not have Oba come out, just have that noise get in Bron's head, and then Tozawa makes an escape or something, and Bron is left for another week to obsess over this new star that's come up to take his spot. But yeah, I'm really loving Bron and Oba and everything that they're doing right now, and bring on more of it. Anything else from Raw? I don't want to go through everything that happened. I suppose we've got a World Heavyweight Championship tournament, and I think it's maybe telling that it's not the first thing I want to talk about. Do you boys have any thoughts on this sort of AAA Luchador tournament?
I'm a bit confused by it, because it was made out that Rey Mysterio's built it and he's the GM of AAA, but it's for an episode of Raw, which happens to be in Mexico City. It's like, so wait, is Adam Pearce not doing his job, or is Rey Mysterio doing extra? It's just all a bit convoluted. Like, if it was for a AAA show, I'd be going, oh, that makes sense. But it's just another Raw show, which happens to feature all Mexican wrestlers, AAA wrestlers. You know, I mean, I'm not complaining. I think Penta will ultimately win it, and to the point we've made numerous times in the last few months, have a one-off match and Penta reigns. I think we've said Penta reigns in the past, but if you do Penta reigns in Mexico City, what a great little match that would be. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it started off, I'm really disappointed that Dom's not in it. I think that would be fun, but yeah, I suppose it's nice coverage for some of the AAA people. I thought, I can never say his name, Laredo Kid, Laredo had a really good match against Penta. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of an odd storyline to get to the tournament, but we're in the tournament now. And Sanjay, are you interested in it? Confused by it? What do you make of it?
A bit confused, to be honest. Because there was a segment backstage when Roman Reigns was coming out and he sees Rey Mysterio, and then I kind of looked more into it, and then I was like, yeah, it's going to be on a Raw, but is that Roman Reigns going to, AAA? And I thought, no, that's not happening. But then, why is it happening? I still don't know, but I'll take it anyway.
If the end result is Reigns and Penta in Mexico City, I'm happy to sit back and go. Or even, Reigns and who else is in the tournament?
Well, that is the rub there, isn't it? Because there's I don't want to be disparaging, but this tournament is Penta's. If this was happening on AAA, then it's much more open. But there is nobody in this bracket for a Monday Night Raw crowd. There's no one apart from Penta. This is Penta's all day.
I don't think El Grande's in it, is he?
Ray Phoenix is in it, and I thought, right, they'll do a Penta Ray Phoenix.
He's at the opposite end of the back bracket.
He's at the opposite end of the bracket, so I did think there will be a good moment to get Penta and Ray, because Ray Phoenix has not had the same experience as Penta has since coming to WWE. So I've got a feeling that if those two get a chance to wrestle each other on a Raw, that could be a barn burner, because Penta's going to want to elevate his brother up to the same level that he's reached. And like you said, Daniel, the end result being Penta versus Roman for the title in Mexico City, I will bite your hand off for that. So I will put up with some confusing tournament that it's so weird. Like you said,
do we get Psycho Clown and La Parka on Raw, or is that on AAA?
Well, without having the bracket in front of me, I think what we saw with Penta and Laredo Kid was ultimately like a quarter final, right? So there's 8 people in this bracket.
Yeah.
And all of them are masked. And so there's El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. or whatever. I think all of these matches are happening on Raw. I don't think any of these matches are happening on, which to your point, Daniel, why is Rey Mysterio then booking Raw matches? But I think that the big thing I had with it as well is this dynamic. You mentioned there Adam Pearce, Daniel, who seems to have not been involved in any of this at all. Why is Rey Mysterio asking the champion if he can book him in a match?
Yeah.
In the fiction of this world, it's not Roman's choice when and who he fights for a title. And it was like, can we put you in a match, Roman, please, for the Mexicans? Like, a weird one, but hopefully the end result will be pretty amazing. So,
I suppose the only other thing was Becky and Stephanie Vaquer. I quite like that little segment. I'll give props to Stephanie Vaquer. Her English has come along by miles, and I thought she did really well on Monday. And I thought Becky's amazing.
I think having Becky is such a good, people say good hand in a disparaging way sometimes, and I mean this is the absolute highest compliment. You could put Becky in there with anybody and that other person is elevated as a result. And I think that's not just true of the in-ring, I think that's true in a promo as well. And I totally agree with your point about her Vaquer's English. I did watch it and think, well, she's spent her time away. She hasn't stopped practicing the English. It's getting better and better.
I think she should study some Scarlett Johansson. And the reason I say that is she has certain tones to the ways that she speaks. If she can sort of bring it down in this sort of Scarlett Johansson, Charlotte Gainsborough sort of way, and sort of soften it into this sort of sultry voice, I feel like it could really be a great way of speaking. But then I'm not sure if that will work as well when paired with her Spanish speaking. So it's an odd one.
Certainly be a juxtaposition, wouldn't it? Because the fire she has when she speaks Spanish is quite intense. But yeah, I don't quite know whether this is going triple threat or whether this is going into a number one contenders match between the two. But I'm here for wherever it goes. And thank goodness we've finally got some top line women's action going on booking wise. Like really, really good.
I feel like the only negative thing is they keep doing this face off between Vaquer and Becky Lynch, and people aren't responding as they're probably hoping. I'm not sure if people are a bit face-offed out. Like, it seems to just be happening all the time where it's like they're standing in the middle of the ring and it's like, okay, we get it. You're staring, like, particularly in anything that's got like multi-man in it. Like, we see it between Royce Keys and Jacob Fatu. The first 2 minutes of Reigns and Rollins was like that. It's like, it just gets a bit much.
Bit face-offed out. I like that as a phrase, yeah.
And we're going into War Games and Rumble season where it's only going to get worse and worse.
The face-offs are coming, whether you like it or not. There's a couple of other things that we could touch on, but I think they'll keep for next week. Is there anything else that is burning for either of you guys that you want to sort of bring up before we finish with the quiz?
I suppose one last thing from me, because I did sort of allude to it that I wasn't a massive fan of the Reigns and Rollins match from SummerSlam.
Sure.
It was fine. And I sort of said a couple of reasons as to why I didn't like it. I didn't like the big face-off at the start. I don't like the Reigns talking aspect. And I suppose the other thing, which is something I'm noticing a lot of this year, is there seems to be this tendency to steal moves, particularly finishing moves from other people. And it was very prevalent in this one, but I've noticed it become more of a trend in the last sort of 6 months, probably since, and I was thinking about it, maybe since like Cena and AJ from last year.
Yeah, that kind of opened the floodgates a bit, didn't it?
A little bit, but it feels like Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes, Gunther was very much stealing like moves here and there. Obviously, Jey Uso last year won with a choke. I don't know. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it, really.
Well, I kind of touched on the same point in the review of that match last week of saying that their finisher theft and overuse of it. It seems to take like 4 or 5 finishers to finish someone off now. Or if it's not your normal finisher, then it's an avalanche version of your finisher. And I think the biggest guilty party of this at the moment actually is Cody Rhodes, who I love Cody Rhodes, but he is totally devaluing his own finisher at the moment, because I don't remember the last time I saw a Crossroads finish a match on its own. But so, yeah, I kind of talked about it in a similar kind of vein to yourself, Daniel, last week. So I'll throw to you, Sanjay, for your thoughts on finisher theft and where that sits in the main event scene.
I think you hit it on the nail there. When it was AJ Styles and John Cena, that was so good to watch. That was actually such a great thing, because he's given, all these moves and the crowds are chanting different names, like RKO or Stunner, and Cena's doing it. That was a great moment, but it's just being overused in all these matches, even the Cena and Cody and Punk match as well.
It's like I didn't need to see Charlotte hitting her sister Abigail.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, all right, Alexa's
Especially
come
not the
out,
way
but
Jade
it's
took
like,
it.
Yeah.
I think it kind of ruins the finisher as well. It used to be so good. When a finisher happens, then you think, okay, that's it. That match has ended. That's going to be the end result of it. But now it's like, you got to do them 2-3 times, and then you got to do kind of a mixture of another move with your move. It's just, not a fan of it myself, to be honest.
And to that point, Sanjay, as well, like when you steal someone's finisher, apart from Jey Uso tapping Gunther out, I don't remember seeing someone steal a finisher and it getting the pin. It always gets a near fall. So you've then devalued that finisher because you've got someone kicking out of it. Like,
well, didn't Charlotte do the Sister Abigail and then hit an avalanche natural selection?
Yeah.
It was like
an avalanche selection which Jade sold with a forward roll, which was that was. I'm hoping for a kind of refresh in terms of some of these main events can be a little bit fill in the blanks, a bit by the numbers.
At least we got Baron Corbin back. One of the most protected finishers in WWE.
There you go. Yeah. It's only second to Danhausen's curse as being protected as a move goes. But yeah, awesome, guys. We didn't speak about her by name, but obviously Becky Lynch and Stephanie Vaquera are in a world title scene with one Liv Morgan, who famously went 100 days without defending her title. And that brings me to you, Sanjay, who now must surely be verging on 100 days without defending your quiz championship. So I think we're going to finish with a quiz, if that's all right, Mr. Champion. I'll ask you in the same way that Rey Mysterio asked Roman Reigns if he doesn't mind putting his title on the line.
But you know what? It's kind of... Nah, I'm joking. Yeah, let's do it.
Daniel, I believe you've got a question for me to step up and challenge our champion, Sanjay. Off you go.
I have, and it's a bit of an oddball one. For those, most of you are aware, I just come back from holiday. So I ate a lot of cheese, drank a lot of wine, and I'm feeling a little bit heavier than I once was. So in the spirit of feeling heavier, I want to hear some of the heaviest people to ever wrestle in WWE.
That's incredible.
So, anyone 300 pounds plus to have wrestled in WWE, and I will say WWE, so none of the British ones, Giant Haystacks, Big Daddy, so forth. They have to have wrestled in WWE and 300 pounds. As per, I can't remember the website, the SmackDown Hotel.
Okay, champ goes first, Sanjay.
I'll go first. I'll say Big Show.
Big Show is correct, yeah.
I will say Brock Lesnar.
No.
Hold on. I hate to get controversial already, but was he not billed at SummerSlam as 303 pounds?
I think in general, his average weight is not above 300 pounds.
Why are you throwing the word average weight in now?
2 seconds.
Where's the word average come from? It was literally the storyline, wasn't it? That Obafemi was 302.
By this one, he's not actually...
It was literally the story that he was a pound heavier than Obafemi.
286 pounds. He was 303 pounds. So maybe they haven't updated it. I'll let you off. I'll let you off on that one.
Thanks.
Generally speaking, he's not above 300 pounds though.
So you're talking more in terms of their average
Well,
or what they're
no,
normally billed as? Or-
no, he's not like that's a rarity that he's been billed at that. He's usually been billed at 280. So
Do you want me to give you a different one or?
no, I'll accept that. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I have to go with whatever this list online is. So
That's fair. That's fair.
So, as we spoke about him today, Rikishi.
Rikishi is correct. 425 pounds.
Viscera /
It's
Big
the
Daddy V
second-
/ Mabel.
Third heaviest in WWE history. 487.
Well, I know who the first one is, even if it's not right. Yokozuna.
I mean, there's question marks over whether it's 600 or 700.
Back to me then. The Brock Lesnar thing has thrown me for a loop.
Say the other name that's given you troubles in the past.
Right? No, I wouldn't say Lashley. I would not say Lashley. Omos.
Omos is correct. 400 pounds.
The Great Khali.
Great Khali is correct. 347.
How far back are we going time-wise here?
Oh, it goes back a long time.
So Andre the Giant?
Andre the Giant is there. 520, number 2.
Mark Henry.
Mark Henry is also correct. 353.
Strong man.
Giant Gonzalez.
Giant Gonzalez, 430.
King Kong Bundy.
Bundy
Shout.
is also correct.
Wow. Bam Bam Bigelow?
Correct. 390.
Braun Strowman.
Nice.
Good shout. 335.
This isn't my real answer, but Crash Holly, didn't he always bill himself as £400?
That makes up for Brock Lesnar.
There we go. Oh, who else? Jesus Christ, I've totally lost it. Kevin Owens? Don't do it.
Braid, that is incorrect. I couldn't tell you what he is
Oh, and
actually. He does actually weigh, yeah. But
He's slimmed down a lot now. I was just thinking.
yeah. He might be around the 280 mark. I thought Big E
I just
would be in
remembered
there
the
as
other
well,
one I
but
had as well.
Big E
Oh,
is
yeah.
not actually plus 300.
Okay.
Or
Oh,
I
okay.
suppose he might have reached above 300 at one point, but generally his build is being around the sort of probably the 280 mark, similar to Brock Lesnar. So,
Oh, and I've lost as well because Sanjay went first.
yeah.
That's it. Game over. And I just remembered I was going to say Mankind or Mick Foley. Was he on that?
He wasn't on there actually, no, but a good shout.
So I would have
'cause it's
lost
quite a
anyway.
heavy set. So,
Yeah.
weird way of saying it. I'll give you some of the other answers.
Yeah.
I did expect you not to get
Bronson
on.
Reed. He would have been one.
Bronson Reed was another one. Yeah, he was 330. I'm surprised no one said William Perry, who headlined WrestleMania with Bam Bam Bigelow. Umaga was one.
He was in
Jasper
my-
Troy, Albert, Shanky, Abdullah,
Shanky. Wow. What
Abdullah
about
the
Veer
Butcher.
Mahan? Was he there as well?
John Studd. Who, sorry?
Veer Mahan wasn't there weeks and weeks and weeks?
No,
Did
he
ever-
was not. There was the other one, though. I forgot his
That was
name, so-
Shanky, wasn't it?
No, there was Shanky and another one. I've lost
Okay.
his name at the moment. Brodus Clay, Gorilla Monsoon, my favourite, Mantar, Bastion Booger, Vader, Earthquake, Tugboat, One Man Gang, Odyssey Jones, Kamala. There's loads. You could have said Haku. You could have said Jacob Fatu. You could have said Hulk Hogan.
Hogan.
See, I
Yeah,
nearly said Hulk Hogan and then changed my mind.
£302.
I was also going to say, and he would have definitely been on my list before the Brock Lesnar controversy. Is Gunther or Walter there anywhere? Because he was obviously
No,
very heavy
strangely
before.
not.
Okay.
No. Rusev is. Ahmed Johnson is. Ivar is. Road Warrior Animal, but not Hulk. Gene Snitsky, Hank and Tank, Sergeant Slaughter, the Big Boss Man, Psycho Sid,
What about Otis?
Alpha, Seeker, Otis is there.
Otis.
Otis.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah, there's Kevin Nash's one as well. Blue Meanie. There's quite a lot. So yeah, I think oftentimes when you hear those weight, you think of like bigger, for lack of a better term, fatter people, but there's some big muscle men as well. Like Hulk is a great example. So,
Yeah. I think do you think there's also a factor there that back in their 80s, especially, they inflated what they would bill the wrestlers as weighing, you know?
Without question.
Yeah. But
And
that
then
was a
there
good question.
There is the odd example as well where, generally speaking, they build at, say, 270, 280. So if that's sort of their general billing, they might not take into account that, I don't know, say Kevin Owens very well could have wrestled at £300 plus at some point. So,
yeah. Well, a fun question, even though I lost. So Sanjay, you now have slightly legitimized your title reign as quiz champion.
Sanjay
One
reigns.
month now? 2 months, is it?
1 month. Good Lord. This cannot continue. So next week I'll be setting a question and
Sanjay Morgan.
Sanjay Morgan. Well, you missed it, Daniel. Last week he called himself the greatest quiz champion of all time. So that brings us to the end of another episode of the Smark-Casual Wrestling Podcast. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Please keep on liking and sharing and subscribing and commenting and all of that good stuff. Until we see you next week, thank you so much, Daniel.
Cheers.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you for listening. We will see you soon. Take care.